Jai Sri Ram. Now starts the Aranyakanda. Aranyakanda name arises due to Sri Rama's stay in the Dandaka forest or Dandaka Aranya for nearly 10 years out of the 14 years of forest life on exile. Dandaka forest had a long history that had a link with the Ikshvaku lineage. This will be dealt with later. Sri Rama decided that they should no longer stay at Chitrakuta, though very suitable, as he feared that there would be again be people from Ayodhya coming over to see them. Sri Rama and Lakshmana, who both were clad in the barks of tree and had the matted lock on their head, and Sita covering herself with the same over her attire, while leaving Ayodhya to the forest, as Kaikeyi had asked Sri Rama to wear the bark of tree as a sign of foregoing royal life, left Chitrakuta and proceeded to Dandaka forest, the Dandaka Aranya. Walking barefooted, they visited the hallowed hermitage of the great aged ascetic Atri and wife Anasuya. Sita narrated her life history, and inter alia mentioned that when she attained the age that was fit for union with her husband, her father King Janaka had worries regarding her future. Anasuya bestowed divine flowers and ornaments on Sita. Moving farther, they made a makeshift cottage that Lakshmana was guarding ever in vigil. They were visited by an ogre called Viratha, son of father Java and mother Sadahrida. He was destined to roam about in the dense forest, terrorizing everyone, and had been earlier blessed by Lord Brahma to have a deathless existence in appreciation of his long austerities and prayers. The ogre itself was once a Gandharva Tumburu by name, who had been cursed by Kubera, and his salvation was to be at the hands of Sri Rama. Viratha had taken aside Sita and went to the extent of taking both Sri Rama and Lakshmana on to his huge shoulders, but his arms were severed by them. Sri Rama realized that Viratha could not be killed using weapons, and so asked Lakshmana to prepare a deep pit to bury him in. Just before being buried, Viratha suddenly realized who the two were, and elated at the end of the accursed Janma as an ogre, he narrated his life history as above and went back to his ethereal region. Sri Rama, Sita and Lakshmana then proceeded to the hermitage of Sarabhanga as advised by Viratha. Once at the hermitage of Sarabhanga, what Sri Rama witnessed was awe-inspiring. Indra's chariot drawn by green horses, the moon god, celestial beings, all were there up above the sacrificial pit of Sarabhanga, who was to have his abode in Brahmaloka by virtue of his extreme austerities. Sri Rama was advised by Sarabhanga to seek the hermitage of Sudikshna and be a savior of ascetics from the ogres that abounded the Dandaka forest. Sri Rama left, but only after witnessing the blessed sage consigning himself to the sacred sacrificial fire and his luminescent form rising up to Brahmaloka, where he was destined to go. On seeing Sri Rama, Indra had quickly disappeared, after telling sage Sarabhanga that he would see Sri Rama later after he has accomplished purpose of the avatar. After the killing of Ravana and at the time of Sita coming out of the fire ordeal, Indra and gods were all present. As per the advice of Sarabhanga of Gautama family, Sri Rama proceeded towards the hermitage of Sudikshna. The sage welcomed them with due courtesies and offered them food and made their overnight stay as comfortable as could be had. In the Dandaka forest, numerous sages pleaded and got Sri Rama's assurance of protection from ogres, who were night rangers and eating human flesh. In this context, Sita had actually remonstrated with Sri Rama and urged him not to do any killings, as that was a sin. Sri Rama postulated that he had to honor his word to the holy men, especially as they had been harassed and even killed by the ogres. So it was his dharma to put an end to those ogres, and such an act was not a sin. Rama and Lakshmana took leave of sage Sudikshna, and holding bow and arrow ready, and with Sita walking behind Sri Rama and guarded behind by Lakshmana, fully protected, moved on and reached a beautiful lake. They heard singing and the sound of musical instruments from a lake and were wonderstruck. On inquiring with the sage Dharmabhrudha, they came to know about the history of the unique lake. The lake, called Panja Apsara or 5 Apsaras, was created by sage Mandakayarni through his ascetic powers. Acquired by living only on air for 10,000 years. Fearing the spiritual powers of this sage, the gods deputed 5 nymphs with the intention of disrupting the sage's austerities. The sage regained his youth and was enjoying with the nymphs in the chambers under the lake, singing songs and playing musical instruments. Sri Rama then went over to see the numerous hermitages, staying for periods ranging from days to weeks and months, and 10 years had rolled by. Rama tadaschyanukulyena yayugo samvatsara dashaka. The sage started living in the Aranya without fear from ogres. Sri Rama had disposed of 14,000 of them. Therefrom they proceeded to the ashram of sage Agastya. Near the hermitage, with herds of deer, the sanctuary had deities like Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Indra, Vivaswan, the sun god, Soma, the moon god, Bhaga, Lord Shiva, Kubera, Dhata and Vidhata, Vayu, the wind god, Varuna, distinguished by the nose in his hand, Kartikeya, Gayatri Devi, Garuda and Vasugi, Dharma as well as the Vasus. They were received with due honors by sage Agastya, who bestowed on Sri Rama the divine bow of Lord Vishnu, ornamented with gold and diamonds, that had been crafted by Vishwakarma. That the Almighty had used to kill powerful demons and restore the splendor of gods. Also was given to Sri Rama the never-failing Brahmastra, given to the sage by Lord Brahma, that was to be deployed to kill Ravana. 2 inexhaustible quiver full of arrows, burning like fire, as well as a sword ornamented with gold and kept in a golden sheath gifted by Indra. Here it is worth noting that unlike Sri Krishna avatar, where Krishna was divine, was God incarnate, full incarnation, and Krishna had his Sudarshana Chakra for all situations of conflicts apart from Shargadhanus and Gada. In Rama avatar, Rama as a part manifestation of the Almighty has been depicted in Valmiki Ramayana as an ordinary human being, and in several instances Sri Rama has said that he is only an ordinary mortal, and being in the lineage of Ikshaku and a long line of ancestral kings, he had considered it important to protect dharma and virtue. That place where sage Agastya was living was once haunted by ogres such as Vatapi and Ilvala, who killed Brahmanas indiscriminately. Ilvala used to disguise himself as a Brahmana and invite Brahmanas every day for Shraddha ceremony. Vatapi, assuming the form of a ram, would be cooked as food for the innocent Brahmanas from whose belly Vatapi used to come out, tearing their bowels and killing them. Ilvala used to call out, Vatapi, come out, for such emergence of his brother. When it came to the wise Agastya Muni, when Ilvala called out, Vatapi, come out, the Muni said that his brother as a ram had been digested by him and sent to the abode of Yama. And Ilvala was burned by the blazing fire that emitted from the angry eyes of the sage of immense powers. Agastya was vested with such powers that the lofty Vindhya mountains reduced its height and remains as such even today, as it had to allow the southern quarter to have sunshine. Also worth noting that it was ordained that the increasing height of the Vindhya mountains had to be stopped and reduced for safe passage on foot of Lord Sri Rama. A brief history of Dandakaranya and how it got its name. Dandakaranya derived its name from the name of a king in the Ikshvaku clan of which Sri Rama was a part. Ikshvaku, the son of Vayasudha Manu, had 100 sons, the last one being called Danda, as he was dull-witted and worthless. He was assigned the region lying between the Vindhya mountains and the Saivala mountains. He eventually faced the wrath and curse of Sukracharya, whose daughter Ajara was solicited by him in an uncivilized manner. The Dandakavana became bereft of living beings after the king Danda and his army were all reduced to ashes. As ascetics used to do meditation there earlier, the place had got the name Janasthana, the place where Sri Rama and Sita Lakshmana camped during their exile. On the advice of Agastya Muni, who bestowed them with special divine missiles and weapons, including Brahmastra, Varunastra, they proceeded to Panchavadi near Godavari river. Narayana, 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 Narayana.